The year is 1987, Poland. You are trapped inside a seemingly inescapable forest. A devastating plague has consumed the lands, twisting and malforming everything within its reach. The people, the animals, even the trees. Nothing was safe from the calamity. With each passing moment, your mind and body progressively deteriorate. Every day in the woods is a fight for survival. Resources are despairingly scarce, and enemies are overwhelmingly powerful. You begin to lose hope of ever leaving this god-forsaken place, but something keeps pushing you forward. A memory of what's waiting for you on the other side. Will you succumb to the forest, or will you break free from its clutches? This is the story of a man who must overcome all odds to defy his cruel fate. This is Darkwood. Darkwood is a survival horror game developed by Acid Wizard Studios. Upon its release, the game flew relatively under the radar, but has since gained popularity within a niche community. Darkwood has many praiseworthy qualities. The gameplay is brutally unforgiving. Choices have consequences that dramatically affect your experience. And the game manages to instill fear and terror within you without the use of any jump scares. But what stood out most to me during my time with the game was its extremely dark and disturbing lore. In this video, I will attempt to break down the hopelessly tragic story of Darkwood in the most immersive way possible based on my playthrough of the game. Hope you enjoy it. I see hatred and fear in their eyes. As if I were responsible for spreading the disease. As if I were the source of all the misery plaguing this land. I have nowhere to hide from them, nowhere to run. The woods have closed us off from the outside world. We are all doomed. The game begins from the perspective of a doctor at his wit's end. All his attempts to treat the plague have failed miserably, and the villagers of the forest now blame him for their suffering. Empty bottles of liquor and medical notes litter the floor of the doctor's office. In the living room, we find cages large enough to hold a person, and next to it, an eerie photo of something resembling a human. The doctor has given up all hope of curing the plague and doesn't even bother sterilizing his equipment anymore. From a room locked behind a metal door, we hear loud thumping sounds. It appears someone has been confined in there. We need to get fuel for our generator before nightfall. The doctor remembers seeing a broken down tractor nearby. As we exit the house, we find the doctor's dog, whimpering in pain. It seems to have been gravely injured by someone or something. It is best we put the poor thing out of its misery. As we venture further into the woods, we notice how rapidly the trees have grown, almost trapping us within its grasp. We come across an abandoned house, ravaged by the forest. The remains of the previous occupants have almost been completely assimilated into the trees. There also appears to be a strange amalgamation of a human and animal on some sort of ritual circle. Before we can reach the tractor, our eyes catch something in the distance. A man. He is unconscious, but still alive. He possesses a large metal key marked with the number 21, which the doctor believes to open an exit out of the woods. He's unconscious. I've never seen him around here before. He's only carrying a key and some journal. Since he managed to sneak in here, he must know how to get out. Of course, he won't help me voluntarily. But that is of no importance. I need to get out of this accursed forest. You hear me, rat? Show me how, and I will let you go. I sometimes hear a voice. She's calling me to return home. Where is the exit? Where? Show me where. Ugh. I'll kill you like a dog if I have to. At this point, the perspective switches to the stranger, who we will play as for the rest of the game. The stranger is part of a military group referred to as the Outsiders, sent to investigate the plague in the forest of Darkwood. Following an attack on his group, the stranger was separated from his people and left severely injured. Although the doctor patched up his wounds, he has now stolen his key, which seems to be of great importance. Using a makeshift lockpick, we open a container which holds a shovel. Using the shovel, we are able to break down the door locking us in. We briefly catch a glimpse of the doctor before the lights go out. In one of the doctor's bags, we find the syringe he used to inject us with some unknown substance. The stranger remarks that we should not go out at night, so we proceed to refuel the generator with the gasoline the doctor found. After switching the generator on, we notice that the radio in the room adjacent has transformed into a corpse with 2 dials instead of eyes. From its mouth, we hear only static. Are these hallucinations a result of the doctor's injection, or are there more sinister forces at play? As we wander around the rest of the house, the static from the corpse changes into numbers. The radio has also reverted back to its original appearance. Using the code on the locked door, we try to help the poor soul who the doctor has held captive, but we are immediately attacked by a man who seems to have lost his mind. The only item in his possession is a plastic toy of a chick. As we walk away from the seemingly dead man, he begins to laugh, mocking our attempt at survival. The horrific noises coming from outside the house intensify and close in. A blood-curdling screech shuts off the light sources. We hear the barricades on the windows and doors being viciously torn down. And are then swarmed by a horde of creatures, vast in shadow. Fading in and out of consciousness, we see a figure emerging from the woods. He reaches his hand out to us. The screen then fades to black, marking the end of the prologue. If you're enjoying the video so far, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out and keeps me motivated to make more content. Subscribe right now, meat. Do it. The stranger awakens inside a safe house. He must have been taken here by his savior after the incident at the doctor's house. From his journal, we learn that he is suffering from memory loss since the initial attack on his camp. And ever since being injected by the doctor, he has not felt thirst or hunger. In addition to this, he has lost the ability to speak, and his appearance has changed to the point where he no longer recognizes himself. These changes must have something to do with the plague, but we can worry about that later. For now, we must escape the woods, and to do that we need to retrieve our key from the doctor, which will allow us to access a secret underground passage. The only problem is, we have no idea where to find him, and it would be suicide to go blindly wandering around the forest. We need to prepare and gather our strength. First order of business is to secure the hideout. Dusk is slowly approaching, and the dark brings forth all kinds of horrors. We start barricading and reinforcing every window, door, and opening in the house. The plague is thought to be transmitted via airborne spores that cause infection after inhalation. The levels of these spores increase to fatal levels during the night. Our only source of protection against this is the protective substance found at the hideouts used by the outsiders. The substance is spread by a special oven that heats and distributes it across the house. Nightfall is nearly upon us, so we go to switch on the generator. It luckily has just enough fuel to last us the night. The first night is relatively uneventful, aside from a few ominous noises and the door opening by itself. Despite staying awake all night, the stranger surprisingly does not feel tired. In the morning, we find a hooded figure waiting for us in the hideout. His deep breaths almost sound animalistic. As we cautiously approach the man, his appearance takes us by surprise. A man with the head of a wolf. He carries an assault rifle on his back, a weapon not easily found in the woods. Even from afar, I can smell your putrid stench. Be glad I don't have an appetite for carcasses, meat. I know what you're after. I can help you reclaim what you've lost, if you help me attend to a certain matter. What do you say, comrade? Without any leads on the doctor's location, we have no choice but to take the wolfman's help. I knew it would interest you. Before we make a deal, you need to prove that you can do the job. I have no time for weaklings, meat. You follow? Show me what you're made of. Get through to the silent forest. When you get there, you will find me in this spot. Remember it. The wolf marks a location onto our map. The likes of you will always crawl back to me. After that strange encounter, we begin to prepare for our journey into the silent forest. We currently reside within the dry meadow, the most forgiving part of the woods. It is best that we use our time here to reacclimatize ourselves. The more we explore the woods, the more it becomes clear that escaping this wretched place will not be an easy task. To put our mind at ease, we head to the underground entrance to make sure the doctor has not found out the use of the key. It would seem whoever was here last did a decent job of protecting the place. The passageway is hidden behind a large wardrobe. Next to it, we notice some odd-looking mushrooms growing on the ground. For some reason, we feel a strong desire to eat them. We enter the hatch and find an underground tunnel, or at least what remains of it. A large portion of the tunnel has been crushed by the roots of the forest. At the end of the tunnel, we find an armored door, marked with the number 21. This is our way out the woods. Lucky for us, it seems the doctor has not found it yet. After another peaceful night in the dry meadow, we are met by the trader. A man roughly our size wearing a hazmat suit. Although we can't get a good look at his face, its features are disturbingly familiar. The trader is the man who rescued us from the doctor's house. His voice is muffled behind a thick visor, and as a result communicates by writing on his body.
We need to stick together, brother.
The trader serves as one of our most helpful allies, carrying a plethora of gear and resources that are essential to our survival in the woods. It seems likely that he is part of the outsiders, given his appearance. Perhaps he knows a way to leave the woods. We show him a picture we found in the hideout, labeled as the road home. But his response is depressing to say the least.
All roads lead deeper into the woods.
Is there truly no way to escape the forest? No, there's no use thinking like that. Maybe the trader doesn't know about the underground passageway. We will proceed with our task at hand. At this point, we are fairly certain that cursed doctor has infected us with the plague. Despite the disease slowly depriving us of our humanity, it seems to be somewhat beneficial to our survival. The lack of need for sleep or food has been exceptionally useful. Perhaps we can use the plague to our advantage. By harvesting vegetation and meat inflicted with the disease, we can extract its essence at the oven in our hideout. This concentrated form of the plague allows us to learn new skills, but every other dose also weakens us in some way. After our first 2 doses, our body goes limp, and we seemingly fall into a deep slumber. We awaken in the underground tunnel. An eerily soothing voice is calling us towards it. The voice seems to be emanating from behind the metal door. Looking through the keyhole, we see an ear firmly pressed against the opening on the other side. Come to me. The door suddenly opens, revealing a trail of shiny stones. Following the path laid out for us, we eventually come across a lone lamp. Switching it on reveals a massive congregation of sleeping bodies. As we walk away, an exceedingly bright light begins to shine at the center of the masses. The light seems to be originating from what appears to be some sort of fetus. At the end of the trail, we find a bed that brings us feelings of nostalgia. Sleeping in it ends the dream. Oddly enough, when we return to the real world, we find a shiny stone in our inventory, which makes us wonder, was this really a dream or rather an extremely vivid hallucination? The trader is visibly relieved to see that we have survived for so long. He smiles faintly behind his visor. He may be our only true ally in this wicked world. After properly gearing up, we are now ready to meet the Wolfman in the Silent Forest. The entrance to the Silent Forest is blocked by black worm-like protrusions on the ground. They seem to be weak to fire. Nearby the entrance, we make a strange discovery. An egg-like structure grows from the root of a tree. Inside the egg, we find an embryo, unusual to say the least. The stranger can't help but think to himself, it looks tasty. In a room full of insects, we are attacked by a savage, someone who has lost his mind to the plague. They are much more formidable than the dogs we had to deal with so far. In the room guarded by the savage, we find the code for the locked door. Just outside the door, we find a sleeping man, similar to the ones from our dream. He gives us a very cryptic message. In the last hideout, look for an exit beneath the floor. We have no idea what this means, but make a mental note nonetheless. Our first order of business in the Silent Forest is to secure our hideout. Nights in these parts of the woods prove to be much more challenging than the dry meadow. Luckily, we still have the trader to help us. He has followed us all the way here, although he remains pessimistic as ever.
There's no way out of here, brother. We're stuck with each other.
How is he so sure that we cannot escape? Has he just given up? Or is there something he's not telling us? We head to the location the Wolfman marked on our map.
I can smell your stench from far away, meat. I'll be damned. I barely believe my beautiful eyes. You made it. I have to admit, you're a resourceful piece of meat. Time to get to specifics. Follow the path located in the southwestern edge of the Silent Forest. You'll get to a village where you'll find a hag who reeks of chickens. Talk to her. Maybe you'll learn something interesting. But be on your guard, comrade. Don't let her deceive you with that kind face of hers. The selfish bitch is keeping something that does not belong to her behind the locked door in her house. Something I'm after. Bring me the key to that door, and I will tell you where to find the thing you lost. Is it fair, comrade? A key for a key. Huh. Good. Now take off. Get to work.
On our way to the village, we notice a gutted pig hung from a tree. A form of symbolism, perhaps, or is it just some sick decoration from even sicker people? Entering the village, we immediately notice a shrine dedicated to an unknown deity or being. The village is relatively well kept compared to other parts of the woods, although the inhabitants aren't too friendly. There seems to be a problem regarding the supply of meat, and the villagers aren't too happy about it. We hear mumblings about a quack doctor, and find a medical bag ripe with equipment thrown into a fire. Could this be our guy? We won't get much information from the residents, that much is certain. Several of the villagers are in the advanced stages of the plague, confining themselves to their homes where they lay in agony. Deeper into the village, we find a house with a pungent odor of poultry. In it lives an elderly woman who is less than pleasing to look at. The wolf was fairly accurate with his description. Better keep them hands off me hens, you bloody scoundrel. I've seen me share of things. Lived through many a war, but nothing like this. Lord be my witness. This accursed land ain't a place for men, ain't a place for hens. Searching the chicken lady's house, we find the locked door, but not the key the wolfman was after. And it doesn't seem like she's just going to hand it over willingly. Showing her the plastic chick we got of the man we killed in the doctor's house elicits great shock in her. Hell's bells! Where did you get it? Where'd you find it? Holy mother, it's Yannick's little hen, a gift from me to my little brother. A couple of days ago he got mad. I told him, stay. You're not one of them brainy fellas. You know nothing. But he wouldn't listen, and off he went to that other fella. Here, take this. He went to see this fella and never came back. She hands us a weathered photo of the doctor. You're all I have left, my little sisters. We don't have the heart to tell the old woman about the fate of her brother. Before we can question her about the locked door, her mood is soured by the sound of a poorly played violin. Investigating the distorted music, we find the small boy, who immediately hides beneath the tractor upon seeing us. His appearance is masked by the shadow of the vehicle. It's not my fault. I know it doesn't sound too great. My violin, it's a bit broken. I won't play anymore. Sorry. Sir, have you been in that hut? The chicken lady's hut? You're not afraid of her? You're brave. And have you seen her? The pretty lady. She's the most beautiful lady in the world. I will watch her through the cracks in the window. She changes when I watch her. Gets more beautiful. I play for her. I want her to be happy, because she doesn't seem to be. The chicken lady's locked her in that room. I tried to release her, but the chicken lady, she chased me off. She always does. I also looked for the second key at Mr. Yan's, but now he's disappeared. I don't know how to get into his house. Perhaps you could help me. Please find the key, good sir, to the pretty lady's room. The chicken lady has it. Well, Mr. Yan also has it. I saw him recently near the well. The well is here in the village. Maybe you will find him there. He used to hang around it often. He stared into the well as if looking for something or someone. I must hide now. Hide from the chicken lady. I will go to that place where they used to keep all the grain in the southeastern part of the silent forest. Will you bring me the key if you find it? I promise to repay you somehow, me and the pretty lady. We have learned some vital information. The chicken lady is keeping someone referred to as the pretty lady locked in a room. Who she is or why she has been imprisoned there remains a mystery. However, both the musician and the wolfman desire the key to her room. The boy has supposedly been infatuated with her beauty, but the wolf's intentions remain unclear. Perhaps he also wishes to set her free, or perhaps I'm giving him too much credit. Either way, we have an important decision to make, but first we need to find the key. The musician seems to think the chicken lady's brother Yannick has a spare key, but we already know what happened to him. The boy also told us they used to spend a lot of time by the well. Maybe it might be worth searching. Descending into the well, we find childlike drawings carved into the floor. Someone or something has been living in here. We hear the growl of a creature closing in on us. A tiny red chomper. Not even the children are spared from the plague. But why was a child thrown down a well in the first place? We will get our answers soon enough. The well eventually leads to an opening inside of Yannick's house, and inside we find the coveted key, covered in chicken feces. Returning to the chicken lady's house, we question her about what we found in the well. We learn that some time ago, a woman by the name of Hanuska gave birth to a baby infected with the plague. The villagers, seeing this, kidnapped the newborn, killing her husband in the process. Her child was thrown into the well, and her house burned down. She now sits idle in the ruins of her home, overcome by grief. The woman initially refuses to speak to us, but as we walk away, she utters a single phrase: "Kill the pig." The meaning of her words escapes us, but nonetheless we nod our head. How could we ever deny the request of a woman who has been through so much? Before leaving the village, our curiosity gets the better of us, and we decide to see this pretty lady that everyone is making a fuss about. As we unlock the door, we begin to hear unsettling groans emanating from inside. Unveiling the sheet on the bed, we are met with a truly disturbing sight. Without saying a word, we leave the room, firmly closing the door behind us. After a long and depressing day at the village, we return to our hideout. We have a lot to think about. Who to give the key to and what pig Hanuska was referring to. To alleviate some of our worries, we decide to indulge in some essence. The stranger's body has grown quite accustomed to it, and he now finds himself looking forward to the next dose. Once again, our consciousness begins drifting away, and we awaken in front of a church. There is a long line of people waiting to enter a trapdoor, possibly some sort of safe haven. In a room next to us, we find a strange box, stained with blood. Its contents have been locked. As soon as we take the box, we are attacked by a black chomper, repeating the same 4 phrases.
A red seesaw. A white dress. A black box. For my girls. A red seesaw. A white dress. A black box.
On the creature's remains, we find a medallion with a disturbing picture of two young girls. A code has been engraved onto the photo. This allows us to unlock the trapdoor and end the dream. When we wake up in our hideout, we find the Wolfman staring intently at us. Did he somehow find out we have the key?
You look tired, Meat. Busy night?
The wolf winks at us, baring his teeth slightly.
And this? What is this junk?
He points at the strange box in our hand. But how did we end up with it if that was just a dream? The Wolfman carefully examines the object.
You want to know what's inside, right? Somewhere in the southwestern part of the Old Woods lies a place where you'll find the key to this box. But I doubt you'll be able to sort it out. Come to me. Maybe I'll even give you something for this junk.
The Wolfman doesn't seem to realize we have the key to the pretty lady's room, but he has piqued our interest in this locked box. While we have him here, we should inquire about the pig Hanuska was talking about.
Looks like no one else will enlighten you. Listen, the inhabitants of our lovely village hold many secrets. Treasures they do not wish to share with anyone. Those selfish, deceitful wretches. They think they're superior because they have human gobs. They treat us like lepers. But you know what? Fuck them. We're buddies, aren't we? And them, they deserve to be punished. Hear that squealing? It's one of their secrets. Find the pig shed, Meat. Make that squealing stop, and the treasure will be yours.
Following the loud screeching noises, we locate the pig shed. The villagers there seem to be protecting something and attack us on sight. Inside the main stable, the squealing intensifies, and we find the sow, the mother of all pigs, an overgrown abomination. Its limbs can no longer support its massive body. This is no doubt the result of the plague. It's no wonder the villagers are getting sick if this is their primary source of food. The sow is surprisingly difficult to kill. It has a massive health pool, and its limbs prevent us from getting close. Using our firearms would be a waste of resources. Inside a house nearby, we find a contraption that seems to be connected to the pig shed, an electrocution device used to stun the sow to allow feeding. A large enough shock might be able to kill the pig. However, the cables have been cut, likely by someone who holds a grudge against the villagers. We need to reconnect them somehow. Before leaving the pig shed, we notice a broken mirror on the floor. Looking at it, we finally get a glimpse at the stranger's appearance. He has adorned the garbs of a scarecrow. His face is partially covered, but the part that is exposed is mangled and pale, likely a combination of the plague and the injuries he suffered from the initial attack on the outsiders. After some more exploring in the silent forest, we come across a house with a lot of scrap parts and broken down machinery. Perhaps we could find what we need here. It appears someone is still living inside, but they refuse to come out until we kill the beast in their shed. Not much of a beast. Returning to the locked door, we find an odd-looking young man by the name of Piotrek. His eyes move erratically around the room. Oops, I didn't hear you come in. I found this wiggly metal thingy yesterday. It was lying there in the grass. I don't like grass. It's so slippery and it tickles your feet. Rather than grass, I would prefer these metal wigglies. Yes, I would wrap myself in them like in a spacesuit. Do you have any metal wigglies?
Lucky for us, Pietrek has the cable we need and is willing to trade for it. We hand over a battery we found in an old tractor.
A hybrid rocket engine. Wow, this will fit perfect in my rocket. Have you seen it? Have you seen my rocket? It's almost as pretty as Gagarin's. Well, almost. I just need to find some parts and it'll be completely ready. Would you bring them to me? The other parts? I would then fly to space and to the moon and to Mars and Jupiter and to the sun. I mean, I would land at night.
It would seem this pile of junk in Pietrek's yard is the spaceship he was referring to. Maybe we will help him out if we have the time. For now, we must return to the pig shed. We successfully repaired the cables, removed the lock on the machine, and set it to maximum power. The loud squealing finally ends, and the smell of burnt flesh fills the air. Next to the corpse of the pig, we find the body of a farmer who was presumably killed after the cables were cut. After a job well done, we return to the hideout for some rest and recovery. The next morning, we find a bloody circle of pigs' heads on our floor. The villagers don't seem too happy with us. Perhaps we should pay them a visit. The crazy bastards somehow managed to drag the sow's corpse all the way down here. Heading to Hanuska's house, the woman is gone without a trace. I hope we are able to give her at least some recompense. We are informed the village leader would like a word with us. He probably wants a lot more than words after what we did. Heading down the cellar of the mayor's house, we anticipate a fight. Hey there, friend. Come here a second.
It's him. He's the one who killed our sow. Release Antek! You will pay for what you've done.
After dealing with the villagers' shenanigans, we now need to decide what to do with the chicken lady's key. We start by finding the musician in the silent forest. We know we are in the right place from the horrible noise. Now that we see him up close, we almost wished he stayed under the tractor. The plague has had its way with his frail body. His lower jaw is almost detached from his face, and a constant stream of saliva leaks from it. We show the boy a photo of the doctor to see if he knows him. This is our doctor, yes. He is just as brave and good as you are. He helped me. He is helping all of us. He gave me this beautiful mask so I could be healed of my afflictions. Maybe you could have one too. Maybe the doctor would make a mask like this for you. I could ask him about it. We heavily consider giving the boy the key. He might be able to help us find the doctor, but ultimately refuse. The Wolfman had asked us first and has done no wrong by us so far. Let's put our trust in him for now.
Bravo, meat. No more squeals. I can
hear the pitiful sobs of old wretches and the pleas of peasants begging their beloved forest to bring back the sow's life. Poor f***ers have no idea I will be the only one to hear their cries. This is music to my ears, meat. Their lamentations make me calm. Finally, I will be able to sleep soundly. The wolf reaches into his pocket with excitement and throws something on the ground. Here, a satchel that allows us to carry more items. We very much appreciate the gift, especially since it was not something we agreed on. It's time we repay the wolfman's kindness. As we produce the key, the wolf's pupils widen with excitement. Well, meat, I didn't think you could succeed. I'm impressed. Time for your reward. You'll find the quack thief here. The wolfman marks a location on our map, but he has locked himself away from the world, and he won't let anyone in. So I don't know if this information will be of any use to you. What the fuck are you looking at? I promised that I'll tell you where to find him, and I did. Did I tell you you'll be able to get there? That's something else, isn't it? Now get out of my sight, meat. I have important business to attend to. If you're interested in continuing our wonderful relationship, look for me in the northeastern edge of the old woods. I predict a tasty future together. Here, deliver this to that insane old bitch as a way of thank you for her beautiful sister. The wolf throws the head of a chicken at our feet. By the time we lift up our head, he has seemingly vanished. Returning to the chicken lady's house, we find her in a state of panic. Oh lordy, what curse has befallen us? Sweet mother, what devilry! One day Yannick goes missing, the next me sister disappears. Oh lordy, lordy. Mister, have mercy upon me and find her. Mother Mary. I don't know what I'm gonna do without her, all by myself. It is probably not wise to show her the chicken head Wolf gave us. We have now learned that the pretty lady is in fact the chicken lady's sister, which makes sense now in hindsight. Her massive body is gone without a trace. We still don't know why the wolfman was so obsessed with her, but we get a bad feeling in our gut. The doctor's house is located in the old woods, a deep and dangerous part of the forest. We should take care of any unfinished business we have here before venturing there. After scavenging the broken down machinery scattered throughout the silent forest, we finally have all the parts required for Piotrex's rocket. Yay, finally! I have everything I need. Go your way now, go now, please! I need to install these parts in my beautiful rocket, and then whee, off I go. I will wave to you when I'm on my way to where no man has been before. Even with all those parts, it would be a miracle if he can get even a few feet off the ground. Anyway, that's our good deed done. It's time to head off to the old woods. Entering the old woods, we are formally introduced to an enemy type we will be seeing a lot more of. Chompers. We have previously encountered the beasts sporadically in other parts of the forest, but they will now form part of our mainstay of enemies. Chompers represent the final stage of the plague's progression, causing the head of the infected to split all the way down to its chest. In the old woods hideout, we find a note about a man named Maciek, who like us was part of the Outsiders, but deserted the group after losing his mind to the plague. With him, he took a flamethrower and was never seen from again. The old woods proved to be exceedingly deadly.
Each night is a struggle for survival. Even the trader seems to be exhausted, but aside from the tiredness, he wears a look of concern on his face.
The forest wants to devour you. You're heading straight into its jaws.
He seems to be genuinely worried about us. But what's the alternative? Live out the rest of our miserable life in the woods as we slowly succumb to the plague? No thanks. Just south of the hideout, we notice a strangely familiar structure, the church from our supposed dream. We find the body of a man split in two. On him is the medallion of two girls, the exact same one from our dream. But it wasn't really a dream, was it? We should probably lay off the mushrooms for a while. Our mind drifts back to the Black Chomper's words, who we now know was actually a man. A red seesaw, a white dress, a black box for my girls. We recall coming across a burned-down house in the dry meadow. In its backyard was a red seesaw, and inside was a white, child-sized dress. Entering the trapdoor in the church, we find a basement overrun by wild dogs. The numerous beds and bodies suggest that this was previously some sort of sanctuary. On one of the dogs, we find a twisted key. It looks like it could fit in that strange box, but we should rather wait until we find the Wolfman again, lest we incur his wrath. Deeper into the old woods, we find an old hunter's house, now inhabited by chompers. The place is decorated with numerous stuffed animals and trophies. One particular trophy has been removed or taken. In a wardrobe, we find an unsettling photo of a large canid feasting on a corpse. Finally, we come across the remains of the hunter, his body merged with roots. He only has one item in his possession, a simple silver wedding ring. We recall finding a similar looking ring in the pretty lady's room. Perhaps the two were married. Heading to the location the Wolfman said we could find him, we arrive at the ruins of a barn. It is now home to a massive number of wild dogs. A lot of them are sick or injured. The Wolfman's hideout seems to almost mirror the hunter's house, but instead of stuffed animals, he keeps stuffed humans. The Wolfman seems unusually happy. He is panting heavily, and there's fresh blood dripping from his mouth. The wolf suddenly leaps at us, pressing his swollen belly against us. He digs his sharp nails into our shoulders and ostentatiously licks our face.
Comrade, what a gift you have given me.
The Wolfman tightens his grip and brings his mouth closer to our ear.
Comrade, meat. What would I ever do without you? You're not such a worthless piece of carcass after all. Thanks to you, I feel fulfilled. I got my girl, my sweet little lady back. Hard to believe the same blood flows through the veins of the bitch who reeks of chicken.
The wolf pushes us back with a powerful blow and drops a hunting rifle on the floor.
Here, no need to thank me.
As we open the room adjacent to the Wolfman, the reek of rot fills the air. The floor is drenched in blood, and at the edge of the room is the corpse of the pretty lady. Her bottom half has been devoured. We have now robbed the chicken lady of both her brother and her sister, but for some reason, the stranger struggles to feel any sympathy. Returning to the wolfman, we notice a ring on his finger. It looks like a cheap replica of the pretty ladies and the hunter's ring, but where would he get such a thing? Showing the wolf the twisted key we found in the church, he quickly snatches it from our hand.
Give it to me. With things like that, you need to be careful, meat. This may be a trap.
The wolfman gently opens the strange box with his large paws. He carefully looks at the contents in silence. After several moments, his piercing gaze then shifts to us.
Is this a f***ing joke? Are you some sort of f***ing clown or something?
In a state of agitation, the wolf throws the box to the ground and turns his back to us.
Some f***ing scribbles. I'm warning you, meat. Do not dare waste my time again.
There's clearly something bothering him, and something he is trying to hide. As we inspect the contents of the box for ourselves, we find a series of children's drawings that seem to tell a story. A family of 4, a father, 2 girls, and a large dog, or perhaps even a wolf. The animal ends up eating a poisonous mushroom, infecting it with the plague. The beast becomes more aggressive and eventually is killed, possibly by a hunter. The father reconstructs its kennel into a red seesaw for his girls. The family's house is eventually burned down by the outsiders, who are trying to stop the plague from spreading. This forces them to take shelter at the bunker beneath the church, and well, we saw what happened after that. It seems highly likely the wolfman bears a connection to both the hunter and the family from the drawings, but what that connection is remains unclear for now. For all our hard work, the wolfman offers to escort us to the doctor's house, which we gladfully accept given how dangerous the old woods has proven to be. On our way to the doctor's house, we find an abandoned health facility that he was previously running. Most of the patients have died, or worse. One poor soul is still waiting for the doctor's return. Entering the house, we are met with feelings of sick nostalgia. It looks almost exactly as we remember, only the doctor is nowhere to be found. Here lies the chicken lady's brother. We didn't have a choice. At the center of the house is a locked safe. Following the markings on the floor, we find the code. Crafty bugger. Inside the safe, we find the location of his new hideout and the code to his door. Exactly what we needed to get the upper hand on him. The doctor has been hiding himself inside the wreckage of a train. Not the first place we would have thought to look. There is only one locked entrance, but we have the code. It's time to reclaim what was stolen from us. What? What are you doing here? Don't come near me! We are very much tempted to kill the bastard and be on our way, but he did save us after the attack. Let's at least hear what he has to say. The doctor presses his back against the train's wall. He is sweating profusely and stinks of alcohol. Don't come any closer, you rotten dog! I won't give you the key. Can't you understand I saved your life? You'd rot away in that clearing if it wasn't for me. You owe me for f***'s sake. The doctor begins grotesquely kicking his legs against the floor. You think I don't know who you are, rat? I've managed to get a good look at you.
Your kind visits us whenever you please. You hide behind the trees, watch us from a distance and then disappear. You have no idea how it is to live here. This place, these woods, everything is f***ed up here. I won't take it anymore. Do you understand? I won't bear the look of those deformed, reeking bodies anymore, nor the cries of those wretched villagers. First they begged for help, now I need to hide from them. I'm just an ordinary doctor. How the f*** was I supposed to help them? How? The doctor goes silent. His face, now hugging the wall of the train car, looks truly pathetic. Can you hear it? It's the walls. They speak to me. My little girl is calling me. I know she's waiting for me. I must come back to her. She's so close. I want to go back home. Please, the key is my only chance. Help me escape this place. Help me or kill me. After hearing the pitiful pleas of this pathetic shadow of a man, we decide to show him mercy. We take out our map and point out the location of the abandoned house with the hidden underground entrance. Thank you. He removes his dirty glasses with a trembling hand and freezes. I will wait for you there, and better take the essential things with you. Looks like returning here will be impossible. After coming face to face with the man who infected us with the plague and trapped us in the woods, we ultimately couldn't exact our revenge. Perhaps we still have some humanity left. We return to our hideout in the dry meadow for one last night before setting off. It's time to reward ourselves. In this dream sequence, we wake up in an apartment outside the woods. A woman who we presume to be our wife or girlfriend is sleeping beside us. This is the first time we have gotten a glimpse into the stranger's past. The apartment is filled with all sorts of urban items that feel so out of place given our time in the woods. This is what's waiting for us once we escape the forest. Our peace is suddenly interrupted by a loud knocking at the door. When we go to answer it, we see our present self waiting for us. The dream ends abruptly, and we are thrown back into this miserable place. Before we can leave to the underground entrance, the trader grabs our arm and pulls us close.
Do not open the door. Let's stick together.
We've never seen him so anxious. We cannot, however, comply with his request. There's someone waiting for us on the other side. After packing our most valuable possessions, we enter the underground tunnel. The doctor is here already, waiting nervously. After 20 grueling days, we finally open the door. Before it can even open fully, the doctor dashes through the opening. The tunnel continues on the other side. The floor is coated with a thick white substance. The doctor has stopped in awe of something. The pathway before us has collapsed, and on the floor lies a man embedded into the roots of the forest. He is tightly clasping a strange pale cross.
Who goes there? Are you one of them? No, please. I didn't do anything. I beg you. I just wanted to pass, to get back to my family. The tree has blocked the only way out, the only path home. A huge, talking tree. I begged it to let me pass.
but it wouldn't listen. I could not understand what it was saying to me, so we came here. I can't get up. My head hurts. The man places his hand on his forehead and feels a strange dent above his left brow. What is this? He carefully inserts his index finger into the hole. My stone. His eyelid twitches. My little stone. We hear the sound of something cracking. The stranger pushes another finger into the hole, causing a thick goo to spew out of the wound. That's why. The man slowly removes a small round object from his head. He swings his left hand and throws the object at us. A bullet, but for some reason, it's soft and mushy. This is what put me to sleep. His head lifelessly drops to the floor and goes still. Suddenly, we hear the bang of a metal door, followed by fading footsteps. The doctor must have ran ahead without us. As we proceed further into the tunnel, we get the feeling of déjà vu. A body of a man covered in roots, with a small hole in his forehead. He is carrying a wooden cross. It's almost identical to the one we just found, only less pale and distorted. In fact, the other one seems like a cheap copy in comparison. It reminds us of the Wolfman's ring. We are still not exactly sure what this means, but the cogs in our mind begin to turn. There is something more sinister than the plague going on in Darkwood. The tunnel eventually comes to an end, in the form of a staircase and a hatch. We exit in great anticipation, only to find ourselves still in the woods. For some reason, we are not surprised. There doesn't seem to be any sign of the doctor nearby. We have now entered the swamp, the deadliest biome in the forest. We must be close to the end now. After surviving our first night in the swamp, we make a heartbreaking discovery. The trader had followed us through the tunnel. He now lies here, lifeless. His head severed from his body. The word liar has been scratched onto his visor. Upon closer inspection of his face, he bears a striking resemblance to the stranger. He only has 2 items on his possession, a key marked with the number 21 and a journal. The exact same 2 items the stranger had in his possession when the doctor found him. Only the trader's items have been distorted, similar to the cross in the tunnel and the wolf's ring. At this point, we are fairly certain that someone or something is creating copies of people and objects. However, these replicas are imperfect and distorted. Based on the creatures we encounter in the swamp, it is also likely for replicas to take on aspects of multiple living things and objects. This would also explain what the Wolfman is, an amalgamation of the hunter and one of his trophies, likely the wolf or dog from the family whose house was burnt down. In light of that theory, his obsession with the pretty lady makes sense, given that the hunter was her husband. The trader is almost certainly a copy of the stranger, but who killed him remains uncertain. His function as a merchant has been replaced by 3 robed figures covered in branches. However, it is highly unlikely that they killed the trader, as they are extremely passive. They do not retaliate if attacked, and will even return the next day like nothing happened. There doesn't seem to be any other likely suspects at the moment. Although, for some odd reason, when inspecting the trader's body, the stranger does not recognize him, nor does he make any remarks about his fate, despite making sympathetic comments about other completely random people who have succumbed to the forest.
There is also no journal entry about this very significant incident, which makes us wonder what would happen if the stranger, in a mushroom-induced psychotic state, learned that the trader had a key to the underground entrance all along. Back inside the swamp hideout, we find an old map which has 2 locations marked on it. A cottage near a junkyard and the village with that tree. We recall the man in the tunnel also mentioning a certain tree that blocked his path, so we start by going there. The creatures in the swamp are far more grotesque than anything we have encountered so far. Their appearance cannot be simply chalked up to the plague. They bear aspects of both humans and other species, birds, insects, reptiles, abominations that should not exist in this world. After some exploring in the swamp village, we come across an old man in a wheelchair. It seems he has lost his eyesight.
Wait, bloody hell, you're alive.
The old man extends his hand, blindly trying to reach us.
You're not from around here, eh? You cannot be. All them lads are dead. It's only me and... I don't have anything, mate. Only this chair, bloody hell.
His gaze begins to drift off somewhere.
What? What are you saying?
His long fingernails dig into our hand.
The tree? Ain't no f***ing tree that. It looks like a tree, but those faces, I know 'em buggers. Every single one of 'em, so close and so fake. They're not real. They're not. From time to time, I thank God I went blind. I don't have to look at 'em.
The cripple releases our arm and leans back into his chair.
It disgusts me. It f***ing disgusts me. This buggery, this f***ing scum.
He suddenly jumps forward, latching on to our coat.
You lad, you've got your hands and legs, strong arms. I beg you, get rid of that filth from our village. I can't bear another day of that abomination wailing and sobbing. I want to die in peace, f***ing hell. I want to die in peace. You need to find the basement, Yashek's basement. I remember it. It's right next to the tree. The tree is too large, so if you can't reach it from the top, you've got to try from the bottom. Find the basement, and there, surely, you'll find the tree's roots. The bloody thing must have roots. That's where they are. Destroy him, pull him, drag him, twist the f*** out of him. You'll find a way, eh? I know you will.
Following the horrible wailing noises, we find the tree the cripple was referring to. A hideous concoction of decomposed bodies fills out the tree's massive trunk. The people embedded into the tree still appear to be alive. Their mouths murmur something. However, it is almost impossible to discern anything coherent from the noise. The talking tree's gigantic body blocks the exit to the forest. There doesn't seem to be any way around it. Destroying the tree, at least from the surface, does not seem to be an option, as its branches rapidly grow back after sustaining damage. Of note is the strange white substance that leaks out from the tree. It is similar to what we saw in the underground tunnel. It is likely related to the replication process. Before we can leave, a deformed figure in the tree points its hand at something in the horizon. Looking closely at his lips, he seems to be mouthing the word, radio. Heeding the words of the cripple, we enter the basement next to the tree. Voices in the wall and floor tell us to leave. It seems the cellar has been flooded. To proceed any further, we would need an external source of oxygen to prevent us from drowning. Reporting our findings to the old man, he tells us to seek out a family called the Elephants, who supposedly keep a large supply of oxygen tanks. They are located in the southwestern part of the swamp, a far trek from our hideout. It would be wiser to leave that for another day. For now, let us visit the only other marked location on our map, the cottage near the junkyard. As the name implies, the cottage is surrounded by a junkyard, which we first have to navigate through. It is here that we find the doctor. He looks more agitated than usual. Additionally, he has acquired some deep wounds on his chest and forehead that seem to be packed with mud.
You again. What do you want from me? Want to put me in front of a firing squad for desertion?
Huh. The doctor snorts ironically, hiding his irritation.
I'm not going anywhere with you. I'm too close. I can hear her, just as if she was standing beside me. My little...
With shaking hands, he reaches for the cigarette butt between his yellow teeth.
I'm sure someone is waiting for you too. I used to come here to treat people, you know. I pulled out kids' milk teeth, delivered babies, and then came the diseases I've never heard of. I was the only doctor in the area. You people cut us off from the outside world. First you, then the woods. No help from anyone. Last time I came here was 3 or 4 years ago. Then the trees blocked the path. It's different now. The fields are flooded. Everyone in the village is dead. So much work for nothing. You know, I realized something. It came to me when we were walking through the tunnels.
You like a disease, you and your kind. You don't belong in this land. You weren't here when the forest was born. You're a splinter, a foreign body, a vagabond. And them, the forest and everything else here, these are the antibodies. Even the morons from the village, raging white blood cells in an infected bloodstream. That's the reason you hide from us. Logical, isn't it? The doctor seems to be slowly losing his mind, but even if we wanted to help him, he doesn't want anything to do with us. Continuing our navigation of the junkyard, we notice a dense trail of smoke. A wreckage of what looks like a rocket. Here lies the charred corpse of Piotrek. He got further than we expected. After making it past the junkyard, we are met with a truly bizarre sight. A massive snail lies on top of the cottage. Its disfigured face sends shivers down our spine. There appears to be remains of a human skull underneath its flesh.
Who are you?
The snail's speech is extremely slow and slurred.
Why? Why are you disturbing my forced rest? Your face. What happened to you?
The snail's jaw falls so low, it almost detaches.
You scared me. You barely resemble a human. You should cover yourself.
If only he knew the irony in his words.
Quiet. Hear that? Do you hear the voice?
The snail tucks his head inside his shell.
She calls to me. Can you hear it? She's calling me, and I'm here, trapped, bound.
The snail's body suddenly leans forward. The wooden construction of the cottage creaks under his huge bulk. We barely keep our balance.
Cut me loose, please. I need to get out of here.
We decide to comply with the snail's request. The creature has been bound to the cottage by something. By destroying a strange pulsating growth in the floor, the snail is set free. He promises to leave tomorrow, allowing us access to the cottage. The snail did indeed keep his promise, as the following day his massive body is nowhere in sight. Inside the cottage we find a map that marks the location of a radio tower. Could this be what the talking tree was referring to? Might be worth checking out when we have the time. Next to the cottage we also find a note from one of the outsiders. It shows the locations of various items buried within the junkyard. One particular item catches our eye, an old compressor. We may be able to use it to fix the broken compressor at our hideout. Once we obtain the oxygen tank, we should be able to fill it up here. It's about time we pay the elephants a visit. At the entrance of their house, we once again find the doctor. His condition continues to deteriorate. He is slowly becoming a savage. This land hides more secrets than your little f***ing rat brain is capable of understanding. The doctor digs his hands into the mud. Deep underground, there's a current of electricity. F***ing electricity. He starts flailing his arms wildly, throwing pieces of mud everywhere around him. And it flows underground from tree to tree, and it powers everything, it connects it all. If I had a light bulb, if I just screwed it into one of these branches, it would light up. I bet it f***ing would. I haven't slept a wink in days. I don't think this is good for me. I hear this voice all the time. Can you hear it? Her heavenly voice. You don't. Why would you? You don't know her. I'm a bit fed up with her. A little, tiny bit. She must know I'm heading her way. I'm doing everything I can. I don't eat. I don't sleep. I search under every rock, under every f***ing bush. She must understand it. She must give me some time. Some little time off. Tell her this, will you? There seems to be some sort of voice calling out to those infected with the plague. We have experienced these voices ourselves in our dreams or hallucinations, and also seen it manifest in others, such as the snail and the doctor. The voice tends to be female and wants us to come to them. It wants us to escape the woods. But what is this voice exactly? Is it a figment of our rotting minds, or does it have an origin? Only time will tell. The elephant's cottage is fairly well guarded. The entire place is surrounded by bear traps. Entering the house, we find that the family has locked themselves behind a metal door. They refuse to come out until we fix their generator. Using the scrap we collected from their traps, we are easily able to do so. The elephants finally unlock the door. And we now see why they were given that name. A mother and 2 children. All 3 members of the family are brandishing hazmat suits connected to oxygen tanks. Who are you? Can't you speak? Did someone take away your voice? You're not from around here. I would have recognized you. We may keep to ourselves, but I know everyone here. I would never forget your mug. How rude. Your gob looks like that because of this fiendish air. Do you know? I bet you can't speak because you didn't keep your mouth shut while walking through the woods. And? You're just going to stand there? I know you want something, you leopard demon. You're not getting anything from us. I don't trust you, leopard gob. Do you hear me? I don't trust anyone who breathes this filthy air. Did you take my Marchinek? Was it you who kidnapped him? Talk! No, that cannot be. It's impossible. Stupid child. He went out and never came back. He was on about how his granny will take him mushrooming. I have no idea where he... I told him he cannot go outside. I told him that the devil will find him, take off his mask and take him away. I would look for him, but... You want my trust? Bring my Marchinek back. My stupid Marchinek. Find him and bring him home. Yet another task we must complete before we can reach our goal. We could just take one of the oxygen tanks by force, but that would be immoral. Looking for clues in Marchinek's room, we find drawings of a house encapsulated by large mushrooms and a map marking the approximate location of said place. Following the boy's clues, we find the mushroom glade, an area almost completely covered by gigantic pale mushrooms. Here we find the doctor one last time. He looks almost unrecognizable, his face completely covered in sticks and mud. He rolls around on the floor, feasting on tree bark and dirt. We can no longer elicit an intelligible response from him. The woods will likely be his resting place. As we are about to leave, the doctor suddenly grabs us and pulls us close. He then whispers in our ear, "Soon, very soon, not long from now." Entering the house at the center of the glade, we are greeted by the pungent scent of mushrooms. White goo seeps from the ceiling and the walls. The floor, which looks to be made of wood, sinks underneath our feet. At the end of the hallway sits an old woman in a rocking chair. She seems to be asleep. A handful of ripe mushrooms grow from beneath her hair. Our mouth begins to salivate. We gently pluck a mushroom from her head and swiftly eat it. It tastes delicious. We must have another, not like the old hag will notice. We pull out another large juicy mushroom without her noticing. It almost melts in our mouth. There is one exceptionally shaped specimen growing from the top of her head, but it seems to be firmly attached to her skull. If we pull any harder, she might wake up, or worse. It's best we suppress our urges for now and continue with the task at hand. The mushroom granny slowly opens her eyes. "Wait, you're not? I didn't expect any guess. I suppose you won't tell me what you want, and you want something, since you're standing here in front of me, right?" We point at the locked door next to her. "It's just the door to my chamber. There's nothing that would interest you there." We show the old lady Marchinek's drawings. "Yes, you're his father or brother. He came here a few days ago. He was very nervous. He hid in a corner and stayed there for what must have been the whole day. He relaxed in the end. I think he likes it here. I like when he's around too. He enjoys drawing, although his drawings are not very childlike. This forest is not a place for children, nor old people. It's a place for the likes of you. I saw some villagers through the window yesterday. They were hiding right there." The woman raises her hand with great effort, pointing to an unspecified place with her trembling finger. "They were hiding, but I have a keen eye, despite my years. I saw their hungry, hollow eyes. I know what's on their mind. They want to devour me and my house. At first I thought you're one of them, but you seem like you can control your, appetite. Get rid of those hungry madmen. Do a good deed, son, and get rid of them. I don't know where they live, but you're young and strong. You will manage. I'm sure you'll find some clues near my house. If you make them go away, then the child will be safe, and I will let him return home." The mushroom granny is a very peculiar character. She seems to be the grandmother of the elephants, but does not recognize her own grandchild. Our suspicions are further raised by the fact that we can find an almost identical house to the mushroom granny's home within the swamp village. Only it is not covered by mushrooms and white substance. The house in the mushroom glades is likely a replica of this place. In the original home, we find a picture of the granny with her daughter and grandchild. Showing this photo to the cripple, he informs us that the old lady went into the forest in search of her daughter and was never heard from again. However, the mushroom granny does not remember this. It is highly likely that she is a copy of the elephant's grandmother, created before leaving her home in the village. This would also explain why she does not recognize her grandchildren, as they would have been very young at this time. Whether she is a replica or not makes no difference to us. We just need to do what she asked of us so that she releases the child. The villagers from the silent forest have somehow managed to crawl their way into the swamp. With their precious sow dead, they now seek a new source of food. The mushroom granny fears they will soon raid her house and devour her. It is now up to us to prevent that from happening. The pig worshippers have set up a camp in the quarry. Many of the villagers appear to be sick. They shouldn't pose any threat to the granny, but just to be safe, we seal them in. Much more time efficient than disposing of each and every one of them. The old woman thanks us for dealing with the villagers and unlocks the room with the boy. She also tells us to come back tomorrow for a gift. What a sweet old lady. As we open the door, we find Marchinek with his back pressed against the wall. He cowers at the mere sight of us, which is somewhat understandable. As we reach out to him, he curls up into a ball and begins reciting a rhyme of 4 verses. It seems we will have to take him by force. As we lift up the boy, he starts kicking and screaming uncontrollably. It's going to be a long walk to the elephant's cottage. After bringing the child back to his mother, she rewards us with an oxygen tank, which is exactly what we were hoping for. Only the tank is empty. However, the delusional woman doesn't seem to realize this. The fool has been breathing the same polluted air as the rest of us this whole time. Luckily for us, we have an air compressor at the hideout that we can use to fill up the tank. Before leaving the elephant's cottage, we find a trail of flowers leading to an old shed. The door is locked with a 4-digit code. The code has been smartly hidden within the 4-verse rhyme Marchinek was reciting. 1, 2, 4, 5. Unlocking the door, a foul stench fills the air. Inside, we find a book mentioning the radio tower and the rotting corpse of a young boy who we presume to be part of the elephant family. We now see why the elephant mother is so protective over her remaining children. Losing a child is never easy. But this is not the end of the elephant family's story. Back in the swamp village, we find a house with the word thief scratched into the floor. Inside the house, there is a photo of 3 boys, the eldest sons of the elephant family, who we now know as the 3. Talking to the cripple, we learn the full story. The elephant family originally consisted of 7 children in total. However, when the village began to starve, the elephant mother took her 4 youngest children and fled into the swamp. The 3 eldest children stayed behind with their father. They were too weak and sickly to leave the village. The father eventually grew desperate and tried to steal some extra food for his children from the basement. It didn't end well. It is implied the villagers brutally killed the father, but this was not enough for them. They would go on to deface his house and throw his sickly children out the village. But the 3 boys somehow managed to adapt to the cruel conditions of the forest and survive. Returning to the hideout for the night, we noticed that the metal door that was previously locked has suddenly opened. There are also deep trails on the ground, indicating that someone or something has been coming in and out the room. A candle and a box of matches. There's definitely someone in here. We carefully investigate, axe in hand. A massive creature. It appears to be afraid.
I'm sorry, very sorry. I didn't know you were living here. I didn't want to disturb you, mister. I just wanted to hide. I don't know this part of the woods. Everything here is different, and this wee hut seems so cozy and safe.
The boy from the silent forest, although he bears no resemblance to a boy anymore.
Recently, I've grown quite a bit. My mom always used to say that I need to be big and strong to help her out in the field.
The boy tries to hug his frail knees with his disproportionately massive torso.
But I don't want to be big anymore. It's very hard being big. You need to be so strong to even walk. Now my violin is too small for me. Please let me stay. Please don't chase me off. I've got nowhere to go. The villagers don't allow me to live in the camp. I promise I won't play anymore. I'll be quiet. You can cover me with something if you don't want to look at me. Please just let me stay.
The stranger, whose heart has been calloused by the cruelty of the woods, can't help but feel sympathy for the musician. Despite his horrific appearance, the boy's personality remains pure. Of course, we will let him stay. The next morning, we head to the Mushroom Granny's house for the gift she promised. Although something feels off today, we are sweating profusely and can feel our heart pounding in our chest. We haven't injected in a while. We might be getting withdrawal symptoms. The old lady has spent the night knitting us a thick woolen sweater. A fine gift. But as we go in to reach for the sweater, the intoxicating aroma of mushrooms fill our nostrils. It triggers something deep within the stranger, an insatiable hunger. We must devour her. As we bite into her succulent flesh, mushroom juice squirts onto our face and clothes. We feel her feeble hands trying to push us off, but she is far too weak, and our hunger is far too great. We continue to bite, crush, and chew every part of her body until there is nothing left. The stranger stands still for a moment, contemplating what he has just done, the woman's remains still dripping from his mouth. We feel disgusted, but this is overshadowed by a sick sense of satisfaction. We slowly turn our back in shame and start walking out the house. It's a really nice sweater. At this point, we have pretty much explored most of the swamp. Only one location remains, the radio tower. We have heard this place mentioned 3 times so far, in the snail's journal, in the deceased elephant's son's journal, and by the talking tree. It must bear some significance. Near the entrance of the radio tower, we find the mangled remains of the snail. Along with the snail's carcass, the radio tower has become a nesting ground for dozens of banshee babies. We should proceed with caution to avoid waking them from their slumber. We eventually encounter a locked metal door, but the stranger conveniently seems to recall the code to it. He must have passed through this building quite a few times in the past. Inside, we find old radio equipment that is no longer functional, as well as an underground entrance. Beneath the tower lies a passage that could very well lead out the woods. However, to proceed any further, we have to enter a one-way floodgate, meaning we will not be able to return. As tempting as this opportunity is, using it would leave everyone else trapped inside the woods. We can't bring ourselves to do it. Destroying the tree may provide others with an opportunity for escape. This decision seems slightly out of character for the stranger. Perhaps he's feeling guilty after what happened with the mushroom granny. After filling up our oxygen tank at the hideout, we are ready to put that damn tree to rest. Diving into the flooded basement, we encounter what will likely be our final dream sequence. As we proceed further in, we quickly notice that we are entering the same room over and over again. However, each time it becomes more decrepit, likely reflecting what had happened in the real world. Eventually, the tunnel in the side of the room becomes large enough for us to traverse through it. The floor is littered with partially absorbed bodies, still flailing around aimlessly. The tunnel eventually comes to an end. Running back, we find ourselves to be trapped. With nowhere to run, the floor gore surrounds our body, suffocating us to death. The dream ends and we awaken in the actual basement beneath the village. The place appears to be on the verge of collapse. Through a crack in the wall, we can just barely see the tree's gigantic pulsating roots. Nearby the roots lies a large barrel, which carries gasoline inside it. Perfect. Opening the rusty valve, it breaks, causing the gasoline to slowly start filling the tunnel. We must act quickly before it spreads too far. Using a torch, we ignite the trail of highly flammable fluid and begin to hear the echoes of the talking tree's loud cries. The screaming intensifies as we return to the surface. The massive tree has been set ablaze. However, it will not yield to the flames just yet. Come tomorrow, the tree should be nothing but ash. The cripple cannot believe his eyes and just sits in his chair, motionless. Our job here is done. We return to the hideout for our final night in the woods. We're so close to the end now, we almost can't believe it. Checking on the musician, we notice he has moved closer to the door and that a toxic green liquid now exudes from his body.
Sorry, I didn't want to. This thing is coming out of my body. I tried to stop it, but I don't think I can. Now the whole room is covered with this. I didn't want to make a mess. I swear. Please don't throw me away. Please let me stay. I promise to be good. I'm so sorry for asking, but do you maybe have something to eat? I'm a wee bit hungry, and if you had something, anything.
All we have at the moment are the mushrooms we collected from the mushroom granny's house. While not ideal, it has done well to keep us fed so far.
Oh, thank you, mister. You're so kind, but I don't have anything, nothing I can give you.
The boy clumsily leans on his side and tears something from his clothing.
It's a kind of rope. You can do a lot of things with a rope. You can do a knot, tie it, or hang your laundry on it.
We should try and take the boy with us tomorrow. His massive body may prove to be an issue, but I'm sure we can work something out. Later on in the night, all the lights in our hideout shut off at once, and a broken radio begins to play a message. The radio explodes, setting its surroundings on fire. We are then faced with what proves to be our most difficult night in the woods. By the skin of our teeth, we just barely managed to survive. Oddly enough, the three are not here to greet us today. After packing everything we need, we are finally ready to leave the woods for good. However, when we go to get the boy, our hearts are once again filled with sorrow. His body has transformed yet again. He does not seem able to move, and we can no longer talk to him. Saving him is no longer an option. Returning to the village, the cripple has seemingly vanished. The air is densely polluted by smoke, and the tree has been reduced to ashes. In its place, a pathway has opened up, a pathway outside the woods. Stepping outside, we feel a weight lift off our shoulders. It's almost too good to be true. The road from our picture, the road home. Just north of the road is a military camp, previously used by the outsiders. It seems they were researching the white substance found throughout the woods. The cells within the substance divide rapidly, allowing the trees within the forest to grow at alarming rates. It is estimated that only 15% of Darkwood's trees are actual trees. The rest have been created by the white substance. Just outside the camp, we find 3 lone trees, 2 of which have corpses tied to them. On the 3rd tree lies a blood-stained rope. The stranger vaguely remembers being held captive here. In the middle of a field, we find the stranger's old hazmat suit, which he swapped for the clothes of a scarecrow. Returning to the road home, we find the cripple desperately crawling away from the woods. It's amazing he was able to pull his frail body all the way here. As we continue to follow the road, we notice more and more people who have been petrified by the white substance. They were so close from escaping the woods. The road eventually ends, and we get our first glimpse of civilization in what feels like an eternity. Power lines. Following the lines, we encounter a group of buildings that we seem to recognize. It's our apartment complex. After greeting our neighbor, we head inside. It seems our parents sent us a postcard while we were gone. Glad they're doing okay. Going up the stairs, we arrive at our apartment. It looks exactly like the dream we had. We relieve ourselves of our heavy, weathered attire. Our dog seems happy to see us. The stranger's partner has kindly made him some soup. We heat it up over a gas stove. Our first decent meal in weeks. After filling our stomach, we head to our bedroom for some well-deserved rest. The soft white sheets are almost calling our name. We feel our legs buckling beneath us. Our body becomes overwhelmingly lethargic. After 31 days of torment, we have finally made it home. But for some reason, the stranger cannot fall asleep. Something about all of this is very off. Why does trying to leave the apartment complex trap us in a constant loop? Why is there a black chomper trapped inside our basement? How is the stranger able to speak all of a sudden? And what is that pulsating mass growing in between the walls? Our minds drift back to the words of the sleeping man in the silent forest. In the last hideout, look for an exit beneath the floor. In our living room, we notice tree roots growing beneath the floorboards. Using a screwdriver, we begin to dig out the flooring. It is not just our living room. The bathroom, the kitchen, the entire apartment has been infested by these damn roots. On closer inspection of our bed, we feel a draft coming from underneath it. Moving the bed reveals a large gaping hole. On the brink of insanity, we climb into it. We awaken in some strange place, stripped of all possessions. There are others here too, but they are all asleep, or rather locked in a trance. They appear to be happy, deeply immersed in their sick fantasies. We eventually come across a group of people who are not asleep. They are worshipping something. However, an extremely bright light hides the being's appearance. As we move closer to the being, blissful feelings take over our mind. We begin to see euphoric images of our apartment. We want to return home, but that home is just a facade. This being is without a doubt the source of the plague, the source of all our suffering. It does not respond to any of our questions. It just seems to be focused on drawing us back into our slumber. But we must resist. We forcefully pull our body away from the being and search for some way to stop it. Nearby, we find one of our old colleagues from the Outsiders, Marchak. He refuses to wake up, but he is desperately holding on to something. We try and pry the object from his grasp, but he resists us. Leave. Leave. Can you f***ing hear me? I won't let you take her. It's hurting her. You will tear her arms out. It doesn't seem like he's going to give up the thing without a fight. Don't leave her. No. A flamethrower, exactly what we needed. We'll burn them all. The flames spread rapidly, engulfing everything in its path. There is no escape, not even for us. But we can die happy, knowing we destroyed that foul abomination. The fire would eventually spread to the woods, reducing the place to ash, along with most of its inhabitants. So ends the story of the stranger. His fate was sealed from the moment he entered the forest of Darkwood. Escaping was never an option for him. After leaving the swamp, the road home likely led the stranger deeper into the forest, where he found the being and fell into a deep sleep. He never actually left the forest. The epilogue of him returning to his apartment was all a lie, a hallucination given to him by the being. The being is thought to be an extraterrestrial entity that crash-landed in the forest of Darkwood in the year 1975. Illustrations of the being's arrival can be found in the swamp village. It is the source of the plague and the creator of the replicated people and objects we encountered. The white substance which facilitates the replication process is the being's lifeblood. This substance is also able to conduct electricity and allowed the being to communicate with us throughout the game, usually through the use of radios. The motivation of the being remains largely unclear, though it seems likely that it wants to draw people towards it, so that it can consume their bodies as a source of sustenance. After becoming infected with the plague, many people report hearing voices that want them to leave the woods and follow the road home, but this road leads directly to the being. Based on this notion, it would also imply that the being does not have direct control over the white substance, as the thick, rapidly growing trees created from it actually prevent people from reaching the road home. Another interesting fact is that all the replicated people created by the white substance, with the exception of the snail, are seemingly immune to the call of the being. In fact, characters like the Wolfman and the Trader will actively discourage the stranger from trying to leave the forest, possibly because they know what's waiting for them on the other side. In the end, the stranger never got the blissful ending that he deserved. But at the very least, he was able to stop the being's sick and twisted rule, preventing the further suffering of any other unfortunate souls who could have wandered into the hopelessly cruel forest of Darkwood. If you made it to the end of the video, do me a favor and subscribe. I have a lot more content planned for the future. If you want to directly support me, you can check me out on Patreon. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.